We begin with President Bola Tinubu's meeting with His Majesty King Charles III at Buckingham Palace for a private discussion during the week. It was warmly received in London, making it the first meeting of the two leaders since they met in Dubai at the COP28 Climate Summit last year.
The latest meeting was at a king's request, highlighting the enduring and cherished relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Now, both leaders discussed global and regional matters of shared priority, focusing on the urgent and complex challenge of climate change.
President Tinubu and His Majesty also explored opportunities for collaboration in anticipation for upcoming COP29 summit in Azerbaijan and the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting in Samoa. President Tinubu reiterated Nigeria's firm commitment to addressing the climate change in a matter that aligns with the country's energy security objectives, while affirming Nigeria's readiness to adopt global strategies for sustainability.
Now, during the meeting, the two leaders shared ideas for innovative approaches to climate financing and funding, expressing mutual interest in strengthening partnerships by harnessing Nigeria's leadership position in Africa and the Commonwealth.
With the likelihood of a second debate in the toll abortions, rights, migration, the Israel-Hamas war, the U.S. economy, and the other salient issues from the high point during the first debate between former U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris in a fiery 90-minute U.S. presidential debate in Philadelphia. And Vice President Kamala Harris and her Republican rival Donald Trump faced off for the first time ahead of the 2024 U.S. presidential elections.
Now, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris locked horns over a range of issues, including abortion policies, immigration, U.S. inflation, the Israel-Hamas war, the Russia-Ukraine war, the state of the U.S. economy post-pandemic, and so on. The debate, which started with a handshake, sparked intense exchanges, starting with policy discussions, but quickly dwelling into sharp personal attacks. The two also exchanged views on key issues like immigration and the economy. So this will almost form a big part of...
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail.
All right, of course, these are some of the things that we'll be talking about on Live from Abuja. But first, of course, it's a very good thing. The President and King Charles III had a meeting, and of course, it was basically about climate change and, of course, how Nigeria can benefit, how the relationship can further be strengthened, and most especially when it has to do with energy. You know, so I think for Nigeria and UK, United Kingdom, it's a relationship that's been there. But of course, in this time of global meltdown, a lot of things are happening, and of course, leaders are exchanging ideas on how to better their country. What do you think? Well,
of course, definitely, Nigeria is, one country that when you come to Africa, amongst the League of Nations, it's one of the countries that is very important because of our place in the world, so to say, our population. So those are the kind of things that actually help us. So it made sense, that it was on the behest of the king that this meeting happened. And then it also has to do with the climate change, because you really cannot leave anyone behind. And so a partnership with the United Kingdom also would help us in a long way to define the structures, the strategies which we are going to be approaching or achieving whatever victory that we intend to achieve with energy security, so to say. And of course, presently we're going through a whole lot of issues with the global warming, with the the climate change issue, the rainfalls, the unpredictable rainfalls, so to say, its effects even on our agriculture and a whole lot of things. So basically, it's also a discussion that is, even though it's on the behest of the king, but it's also very important to us as a people, that we continuously have these engagements on how to intentionally start tackling these issues.
Yeah, no, it's very important that those things are actually being tackled. But let's also look at another issue, of course, that we are going to be looking at in this particular program, which is, of course, the U.S. debate. It was a talk of the town, I was almost on heavy news media outlets around the world. You look at former U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. A whole lot of issues we talked about: economy, immigration. You look at education and all of those things. And I think that for a large extent, I think what President Donald Trump and, of course, Kamala Harris, for example, you look at what their take on the issue in Hamas Gaza war. You look at their issue on the Ukraine war. You look at their issues on immigration, and that's just to show you how these things are very important to the world at large. For example, you look at what President Donald Trump was talking about.
But then, so you would also understand that when it comes to these discussions, these issues, in as much as Kamala Harris would try to present herself as, I am a candidate of my own, you should also understand that her party is in power, so she is not so much going to throw President Joe Biden under the bus by saying that his policies are wrong. So she's going to be very smart about how to come out with, okay, we will try to do things differently without without categorically saying that the present administration is very wrong, because she's also part of the present administration.
Yes, I know one of those things that actually caught my eyes was the issue of tax and tariffs. One is saying there's going to be a cut of taxes. One is the others. I think Vice President Kamala Harris is talking about cutting of taxes. Majorly for the middle class. You look at what President Donald Trump is saying, raising the tariff from 10% to 20%, and that's a whole lot. And the question back on how do the American people, benefit from all of this? It's a whole lot of questions to be asked, most especially when it has to do with immigration. Don't forget President Donald Trump talked about building a wall, the Mexican wall. You remember?
Yeah, everyone knows that he has this very strict policies when it comes to immigration, and he majorly believes that America should be for the Americans, and he feels like a lot of people are coming into America to take over America from the Americans, whatever that means, according to him. But so you would also kind of understand that there are people whose interests that he's also representing, because there are people that are out there supporting him.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to the next story, and this has to do with flooding. Floods have submerged thousands of homes, with a lot more number of people displaced due to a rapid rise in water levels, which led to cracking of the Alau Dam in Maiduguri, the capital city of Borno State in northern Nigeria. Reports say Nigeria has announced that the city is experiencing one of the worst floods in 30 years.
Socio-economic activities have been crippled owing to heavy downpour and the collapse of water channels at the Alau Dam. Over 500,000 people have been displaced by the floods. While no casualties have been reported, many are concerned about the lack of preparedness and inadequate facilities to address such disasters.
Vice President Kashim Shettima was among the top government officials who visited the flood-ravaged areas to assess the damage and to offer support for victims. The governor says that about 40% of the capital city remains flooded, with at least 2 million affected, and extent of destruction is quote beyond human imagination, but the state cannot show that alone. and thousands of people, thousands of displaced people are in settlement camps, while the hundreds are more still trapped.
Now, there are concerns about an outbreak of waterborne diseases like cholera because water sources have been contaminated.
It might be associated with climate change. That is the most important thing. So what we need to do is to now reinforce the dam, reconstruct the dam, expand the capacity of the dam, and most importantly, defilt the drains. Because most of the waterways were occupied by human beings. If you can remember a few years ago when I was sworn in as the governor of Borno State, I followed all this route and I asked people to bucket on the waterways. But unfortunately, people don't heed to our own advice. People build homes right inside waterways, thereby reducing the width of the canals. These are some of the factors that are responsible for the overflowing. But most importantly, we are witnessing rainfall, storm that has not been, seen in the recent years, up to 50, 60 years ago. So the soil has become completely saturated. So what we decided to do is to give 10,000 naira to each of the heads of household.
Well, we're here today on behalf of the Nigerian Governance Forum to commiserate with the government and people of Borno State over the Kamala Dam Bridge. Also to commend Mr. President for the quick reaction by dispatching the Vice President alongside him, President and the Northeast Development Commission. On our part, the forum will do the needful to support our colleague. But from what we've seen in the media, it's truly a major disaster, which we would also try to see ourselves. We know the hardship and challenges that people will go through, and we know also the excellency is up to the task in making sure we bring support to the people and turn things around immediately as soon as possible. We just pray for Allah's guidance in this process and wish the people of the state good tidings, and we pray for them.
Joining us live is the co-lead on environment thematic areas at the Women Environmental Program, Tine. Again, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show this morning.
Pleasure to be here this morning.
And just before you came in, we were talking about the President Tinubu's visit to the United Kingdom on the request of the King, discussions from the COP28 and in preparation for the COP29. But now we can see truly that it's a discussion we should be having, because obviously nature is angry. Yes. Now, how can we start addressing these issues, environmental issues that are obviously coming from the climate change?
Okay, first, my heart goes out to the residents and good people of Borno State who have been affected by the floods. And I like to appreciate all stakeholders who have been taking concerted action to bring succor to those who have suffered loss, be it in terms of material resources or those who have also lost their lives. Obviously, like you have rightly noted, nature is angry with us because as human beings, we have failed to protect nature as we go about our daily activities, as we seek decent living in our day-to-day activities. We have over-interrupted with the balance that is in nature. And so now we see the awful impacts of that reaction in terms of the extreme weather events like the flooding which we have experienced, not just in Borno State, but of course in many other locations across Nigeria. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has issued warnings of impending floods in different locations across Nigeria. And that goes to tell us the extent to which nature is showing its anger at us for failing to live our lives according to how humans can live in harmony with nature. And so a first step to addressing this will be to take a critical look at how nature was way before now, to take a critical look at the changes that have happened over time, and then to take concerted actions to see to it that our living does not over-interfere with the balance in nature. And so nature is able to be resilient, and so our human beings are also able to be resilient, and that we can live in harmony with nature.
You know, so I remember that NEMA has been issued warnings in the last 5 months.
Right.
As a matter of fact, at the beginning of this year, I remember so many times they've issued. I've covered events where NEMA have said there'll be heavy downpours in some states, and of course, Borno, Kebbi was also mentioned. How do you think that we need to start having to bridge this gap of preparing enough when the agency who is in charge of this kind of situation says there is going to be this? How do we prepare for it? What are the measures that we need to take? What are the things that we need to do going forward to mitigate this kind of situation that is, yes, I know that nature is angry, but at the same time, you know, we are the ones who caused it, but we can also find solutions to it. How do we do that?
So I would say that there are multiple approaches which we can adopt as a people, be it as individuals or as systems, to address these challenges that we have. Unfortunately, I must also mention that there are individuals as well as systems that deny the existence of climate change. Let me also just bring in to highlight that a number of persons have attributed the current flooding in Borno State to climate change. You will also see that there are some who have said it is not as a result of climate change, it is because the agencies who were in charge of maintaining the Lao Dam failed to do their work, and that is why one of the structures was compromised. But if we look at the larger issue which caused the flooding or the breakage of the dam, it was because there were torrential rainfalls that were beyond the level that these dams could contain. And so that was as a result of climate change. And so we need to begin to speak more to individuals in communities, to decision makers, to public officials, to understand that truly the climate is changing and that its impacts are becoming more extreme as it is felt in the floods that we are having now. We must begin to speak to decision makers in public spaces to allocate more resources to addressing the drivers of climate change, which it's global warming, or which is the overuse of environmental resources. Bringing it simpler, the cutting down of trees for use as firewood and then for construction purposes, the overemphasis on the use of fossil fuels, the over-tilling of soils. There are quite a number of actions that as human beings we take which impact the balance that is in nature. And so as people who understand this, we must be able to get the support and buy-in of every critical stakeholder to see to it that yes, truly, the climate is changing, and that yes, truly, every one of us needs to take concerted actions to address this. As individuals, we will need to watch how that we cut down trees for use in our individual homes and for different purposes. And as decision makers who are in government and at other levels, we must begin to get them to show deliberateness, if at all there is a word like that, to be more intentional about allocating resources to programs and activities that address climate change, but not just the impacts of climate change, but that address the key drivers of climate change within our contexts.
Okay, and then Tine, so now we're saying that, I mean, the Lao Dam is the cause of this current flooding being experienced in Borno State, and I'm wondering, Demola also pointed out that as early as, or as far back as earlier in the year, NEMA have been shouting that we would have these impending disasters coming our way. So with things like this, what are the practical ways that, or steps that we could have taken from January until now to ensure that the people who are now facing these displacements and all that in Borno have lesser sufferings? Is it a reality? considering the fact that we forecasted early that there's going to be this, and now it's coming from, we're now saying it's the allowed dam. Could there have been a way to mitigate it?
Yes,
okay.
there are ways, and like I mentioned, everyone who is within this ecosystem has a role to play. The persons within the communities who have been badly affected by these floods also have a role to play. Same way the agencies of government that are responsible for providing services also had a role to play. I also hear that when the locals around there discovered that the water levels in the dam were rising, they alerted the officials who were responsible for that, and I'm not able to tell what actions were taken. But there are adaptation measures that the locals would have been taking, like relocating from their communities to safer, higher grounds, because you know that whenever you have issues of flooding, oftentimes the floodplains will be affected more. And so a first measure will be for the locals in communities to relocate to safer, higher grounds. Then again, speaking on the responsibilities of the authorities, it would have been also necessary or proactive if the responsible agencies began to maybe reduce, so to speak, or make for the gradual release of the waters that were contained in that dam, so that in the event that we had this torrential rainfalls, as was predicted by NEMA, we would have had a situation whereby the grey infrastructure, which is referred to the dam now, was better able to contain the magnitude of the rains that came eventually. And so I would like to see it as a dual responsibility, where people in the communities, beyond just raising their alarms, also took the proactive measure to relocate themselves to safer, higher grounds, and where the authorities in place also activated, so to speak, the actions required of the maintenance of such dams, especially when you have water levels rising beyond the expected.
Sorry, Enola, just a clarification. So from what you're saying, we could have controlled where the water went to, in a simple term? If they opened the channel before the flooding, could they have controlled where the water went to, rather than the water just overflowing on its own? And
I believe that there could have been a better control of the waters if perhaps the authorities who were responsible for the management of that dam took proactive measures to control it.
You know, you talked about maintenance of that particular dam. In 12 years, over 700 million has been budgeted for that particular dam. 762 million, as a matter of fact. From one administration, from the Jonathan administration down to this particular administration, being different allocations to that particular dam. Now, if there are money dedicated for it, and despite that, the dam is still in a poor shape, you know, you talked about budgets being, money being allocated, you know, for different of these facilities. But now, from what we see, money are allocated. Is it that the money is not enough, or is it that the people who are in charge of the maintenance of those places, they are not doing what they're supposed to do? How do government get to, you know, have a monitoring instrument that will monitor the people that are supposed to monitor the things that are supposed to be done? Okay, so then what I would like to look at is from the broader perspective. All right.
Remember, I had emphasized earlier the need for awareness raising. Yeah. And when I talk about awareness raising, it is not just limited to the locals, including the persons who are in government too. There is a possibility that officials of agencies responsible for the management of these facilities might require much more training and awareness to be able to cope with the changing dynamics of weather elements and how they affect this critical infrastructure. And so I would want to look at it from that perspective, that perhaps maybe because the projections were beyond the level that was expected, possibly they lacked the technical capacity to be better able to handle this extremism as they came. And so I would advocate for mandatory continuous training for officials who are responsible for the management of these facilities, even while we also take a critical look at the broader other issues of transparency and accountability in terms of the management of resources that have been also allocated for the management of this critical infrastructure.
I think that the Ministry of Water Resources has a lot of questions. We need to ask them a lot of questions concerning, because we can't keep having this kind of situation when money are budgeted for it. You know, it is unheard of when a ministry that is supposed to be in charge of these kind of things, and they're saying, and it looks as if they don't know what to do. My question is, how should the Ministry of Water Resources begin to approach, you know, the issue of flooding in Nigeria? Because it's not there in Borno. I think it's sometimes in June or July, the whole of Lagos was waterlogged everywhere. How do we begin to address these things when we can begin to use the money that is meant for it while using it for it?
Okay, so that's another angle to it. I only recently read a statement by the Honorable Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Otse, and the statement was that the flooding in Borno currently is not as a result of the collapse of the Alao Dam. The statement read that it was as a result of an overflow of the Ngada River, which is one of the major tributaries feeding into the dam. And so in the face of these conflicting attributions, it will be necessary for us to maybe take a step back again and then reassess perhaps what possibly may have caused the floods in Borno. But despite these multiple attributions, there is no disputing the fact that there was a torrential rainfall as a result of extreme weather events, which of course have been linked to the impacts of climate change, which are leading to extreme weather variabilities. All right,
Tina, I'm a bit concerned and worried at the same time. I feel like we always, as a people, find ourselves in a place where, you know, there's an alarm or there are signs of impending danger, and then it meets us and we're never ready.
Exactly.
I mean, it cuts across everything. It's not just about flooding or natural disasters, even health. How do we start developing, you know, that attitude to get ready for things? Is it about a change of orientation, or is it an intentional government thing? Does it have to do with the people in power, or is it something that we as a people have to start working on?
So I agree with you. The last 2 points we raised, all those will have to come into play. First and foremost, as a people, we will need to know that we are the primary persons who can take care of ourselves. And so we begin to assess ourselves, assess our local environment, and then come up with individually developed adaptation measures to which will enable us better live with the changes which we are currently experiencing. And then again, as a people who live within systems that are governed, we will, it is only appropriate that the persons who are in charge of these governance systems also live up to their responsibilities by guiding us along the path that also enable us better live with these realities. And so yes, as a people, we need to begin to adopt better adaptation measures, do less of firewood, make deliberate efforts to learn and not just wait for the government to maybe take actions. And then as a government too, we know that we have elected persons into government so that they are better able to take policies and then manage our collective resources in such manner that every one of us lives happily at the end of the day. And so it will be a dual responsibility on the part of individuals who are led and those who also lead to live up to their responsibilities that ensure that we live healthily in our environment.
All right, so Tina, COP after COP, we have committees, and now we're preparing for COP29. Please, what are the things we should start seeing from their policies to tell us that, yes, we have started implementing?
Okay, so the conversations around the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change are quite very interesting. As we prepare for COP29, there are very critical decisions that we are expecting that will be taken at COP29. One of them is the call for climate justice, which we are aware that the global northern countries, as it were, are those who are more responsible for the emissions of greenhouse gases, which, yeah, that sounds, the greenhouse gases, for example, carbon dioxide, which have been affecting, or which is the major cause of global warming, and which of course is leading to the flooding that we have currently. And so we are looking at how major decisions will be taken on getting the global northern countries to pay for the damage which they have caused. And such monies will be used to support mitigation activities and then adaptation activities within the global southern countries, which of course are many of the countries in Africa are involved. So we want to see the translation of those commitments by global northern countries to action as one of the key takeaways from COP29, amongst many other issues.
So on the last question, just to raise these on what you just said, I think that's, some have said that's going to be a very tall order, you know, for the Western countries to pay for the damage that they have caused, you know, and which has begged the question of committees after committees are set up. When this money, if for example the money is being paid, how do we ensure that it's properly used for what it's supposed to be used for?
That is why the action of civil society organizations is very necessary. Civil society organizations are more like the bridge between the government and communities, because we understand the workings of government systems, and at the same time we also work very closely with locals in communities. And so we are able to bridge that gap between the led and the leadership. And so civil society also helps to provide some sort of checks and balances on the actions that are taken by authorities. And so if these monies are released by global northern countries, especially to government officials, it will be the responsibility of government institutions as expected to be as accountable as possible. But in the event where we have challenges with that, it behoves on civil society organizations like ours and many others to see to it that they put close checks on the governments to ensure that those monies are expended and that they reach the persons who suffer the impacts of climate change most in our communities in the most accountable manner.
Thank you very much. It's been a very wonderful discussion, but of course we can exhaust it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. We'll go on a break. When we'll come back, we'll go straight to the headlines.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
And welcome back. A global campaign that speaks to the issues of war, insecurity, health, and other issues that affect the peace of children has been launched. The initiative hopes to improve the well-being of children by addressing the issues that affect them. Nigerian children are pushing to change the narrative by standing up for the right through the launch of the Storm for Peace global campaign.
Children are physically smaller than adults and still developing mentally and emotionally. They face the most challenges, from things like poverty, hunger, lack of access to clean water, war, climate change, and exploitation.
Campaign is super important because it's all about promoting peace and standing up for the rights and well-being of children across our country. To us, peace is not just about not having wars or conflict. Peace is a key to having good education and a better life. Right now, children in Nigeria face so many challenges that put our peace and well-being at risk. That's why we're starting this Storm for Peace journey to demand the following: peace against child labor and trafficking, peace for quality education, peace against child neglect and abandonment, peace against violence and insecurities in schools, peace for good nutrition and quality of life, peace against environmental hazard, peace against cultism and kidnapping.
We refuse to stay quiet while our future is being taken from us. We call on our leaders, our communities, and the world at large to help us fight for peace. Let us storm together to end child labor and trafficking in Nigeria. Let us storm together to invest in schools, resources, so that every child will have a chance to a quality education. Let's storm together to ensure proper care to avoid neglect and abandonment for Nigerian children. Let's storm together to end violence and insecurity of Nigerian children. Let's stop together to ensure that there is a safe environment where children will be able to grow safe and healthy. Let's storm together to improve in quality education so that children will be able to learn safely. Let's come together to end kidnapping and cultism of Nigerian children. We call on everybody to storm for peace.
And now to headlines. A justice of the Federal High Court Abuja has granted bail to 10 protesters arraigned on September 2nd, 2024 on a 6-count charge of treason, incitement and mutiny, intimidation of the president, destabilization of the country and destruction of public property. The protesters were brought before the court for allegedly engaging in activities aimed at undermining national security and public order, attempt to overthrow President Bola Tinubu.
President Bola Tinubu has approved the commencement of the 2024 National Honours Award, which will recognize Nigerians and friends of Nigeria who have made significant contributions to the nation's development or have distinguished themselves in their fields. This announcement comes with a call for nominations and a submission of names who have significantly uplifted the nation, saying that the nomination process is free.
And Nigeria's Ministry of Housing and Urban Development has partnered with the World Bank to tackle the country's land registration issues, with over 90% of land currently untitled, tying up on an estimated of $300 billion in untapped capital. The initiative aims to register all land parcels within 5 years, increase from land transactions from 10% to 50%, and establish a national digital land information system.
In business, the CBN has updated the exchange rate for the naira against various foreign currencies in the official exchange market. Nigeria currency closed last week with a good performance against the dollar, but fell to euro and pound sterling. The Central Bank of Nigeria has decided to intervene in the market and also sold forex to bereave change operators.
And outside Nigeria, the death toll continues to rise in Algeria and Morocco following deadly flooding caused by torrential rains. More than 20 people have died and dozens are missing in both countries after floods swamped villages in normally arid region. Officials say the 2 days of storms on the weekend in some cases saw rain exceeding the annual average rainfall.
The United Nations Security Council has adopted a draft resolution on Wednesday that extends the sanctions on Sudan until September 2025. The United Nations Security Council unanimously adopted a draft resolution extending the Sudan sanctions regime, including targeted sanctions such as asset freezes, travel bans, and an arms embargo until 12th September 2025. The resolution is a technical rollover of measures previously renewed by Resolution 2676 in March 2023.
And let's talk about fitness challenge now. Experts are promoting the importance of physical fitness as a way of tackling non-communicable diseases in Nigeria. To push this further, a fitness challenge to the fight against NCDs has been organized and will begin in October this year. First.
Well, physical activity largely contributes to improved health and well-being and helps in the reduction of the burden of mortality from non-communicable diseases and other health risks. Inactive people have a 20% to 30% increased risk of death compared to people who are sufficiently active.
Physically inactive and sedentary behaviors are contributing to the rise in NCDs and placing a burden on the healthcare system. Popular ways to active includes walking, cycling, wheeling, active recreation, play, and can be done at any level of skills and leisure. Interesting. I think do you do any exercise?
Yeah, I started recently. I mean, I felt like I've been sedentary for too long.
No, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, but I know you go to the gym, but mine is not on the gym level. I just try to do something between 15 to 20 minutes a day. I expect to grow on that, get to 45 minutes before the end of the year.
All right, we'll go on a break. While we'll come back, entertainment and sports on the last lap of the show.
Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Voted as the best TV station of the year, TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen, following all nationwide big and impactful stories, without the news from every perspective, covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Welcome back from the break, and now we go straight to entertainment. We start with Nigerian superstar Tems weighing in on Buju Banton's criticism of Afrobeats. According to the Grammy winner, Afrobeats, like other genres, serves a particular purpose for its originators, who are Nigerians. Tems pointed out that Afrobeats is a pop music created to offer its listeners a good time, like most pop music from other parts of the world.
And Davido was on hand to entertain Ethiopians as they celebrated the start of the year 2017 rather. The Grammy nominee was in Ethiopia to perform in a sold-out show as the country entered the 2017, which is 7 years behind the global Gregorian calendar. The superstar performed several of his popular songs, including his from record-breaking folk album Timeless. Interesting.
Yeah, very. Bulale Austin Peters, a notable figure in the Nigerian theatre scene, is set to introduce the Lagos International Theatre Festival this November. The Lagos International Theatre Festival, LITF, is set to debut this November, bringing together an impressive assembly of creative talents from around the world. Established by the iconic Bolale Austin Peters in partnership with Lagos State, the inaugural LITF aims to foster a vibrant community for thespians, promoting excellence and sustainability in the creative industry.
I think Nigerian women are actually doing well in the creative industry, if you ask me. American singer Beyonce who is known for being extremely private about her personal life and matters, has opened up about her effort to maintain a privacy in this digital age, stressing that no amount of money is worth a peace. During an interview, the resident singer touched on the challenges of maintaining privacy in a world where information is constantly accessible and often unreliable.
Well,
Interesting.
Well, definitely. I mean, we understand where she's coming from. I mean, you could just want to have a peaceful shopping in the mall, groceries, and somebody just, you know, takes a picture and boom, you're trending, you've become. And so I totally understand, you know, what she means. But funny enough and good for her also, she is being able to maintain, you know, that private life balance away from the celebrity status. I think she's one of the few celebrities that I've seen that have been very private about their lives. For example, she, Alicia Keys, they've been very, you know, very private about you don't see them put it on social media just like that. And but on the contrary, there are, you know, people who are like the opposite. They want everything they do to be on the social media. And then, Demola, did you notice that when you were reading about, you know, Davido in Ethiopia, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, what's he saying, 2017? Yeah. Until, I mean, you mentioned the 7 years behind Gregory. So, you know, so I've known this since, I think, for a long time. I think since like 10 years now or so. I just stumbled on a story like that 10 years and like, okay, I think we're in 2016 or I can't remember. And they were still in like 19 something. They were in 2000 and maybe 4 or so. And I was like, okay, what's happening? Only for me to now go and, you know, study about, okay, they don't actually use the Gregorian calendar. They have their own calendar, because if you look at it, from the start of the world, Ethiopia has always, you know, for them, they maintain everything that has to do with them from the onset. They never changed. You know, they never changed, and I think that that's a big one. But for Davido, I think it's also a big one for him to do that. And I think another one I want to talk about is that of Bolale Austin Peters. You know, you're proud of women. Say it, just. I've said it before. Come on, please, cut me slack, please. Yes, I've said I'm proud of Nigerian women are doing well in the creative industry, most especially the likes of Bolale Austin Peters, Kenya Adetiba, Funke Akindele, you know, Omoni Oboli. I think they're doing quite very well on the scene, on the movie scene. And if you look at it, it's just telling the stories that are very impactful in the society. For example, Bolale Austin Peters did the story of the Funmilayo Ransom Kuti. No, it's one of the most historic movie that I've seen in Nigeria. She was able to tell that story that, you know, some persons just know that Funmilayo Kuti probably was one of the persons who drove the first car. We didn't even know. Some persons didn't even know that, you know, she was. There were other things about her. Other things involved, like, you know, she was able to confront the Oba of those. I mean, you know, of those days. And I think that it's just a very reliable one to make sure that, you know, women are really doing well in the entertainment industry. We'll go to sport now. Abuja is gradually becoming the hub for combat sports in Nigeria, and one of the traditional northern sports, Dambe wrestling, will take the center stage this weekend at the capital city. The Dambe Wrestling Championship promises to be an exciting event as 10 Dambe wrestlers compete for titles. Now, Polish athlete Matthews is ready to fight in Nigeria. The championship will feature top wrestlers who are vying for honors in lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight categories. This platform has actually turned what used to be leisure into a career for these warriors, and one of the accelerating things about Dambe events is that traditional music and cultural performances, that keep the atmosphere tense and the wrestlers motivated.
This traditional form of wrestling, originating from the Hausa people of northern Nigeria, has gained immense popularity in recent years, with a growing fan base and increasing recognition globally, although it has yet to catch the attention of the International Olympic Committee. The final championship is scheduled to take place on Sunday, 15th September at the Velodrome, Abuja National Stadium.
Sport existed for thousands of years and it hasn't evolved. So why don't we have what the Asians have in terms of the one championship promoting their traditional martial arts, karate and judo and taekwondo? Why can't we have what the Americans evolved to become like modern day combat sport with the UFC?
Then what we are going to is that we want to take the sport up into like an international destination whereby we have global following of the sport, global attainment. Like people need to watch it, understand it, know it, love it, like the characters, be the characters.
Yes, of course. I'm here to win. I'm here to win, and there's no other option. Because before I got here, I came to win. But after I'm here, like for 7 days, I think, right now, I have to win even more. Because Nigerian people gave me so much love.
The 2024 Paralympic Games in Paris, France have come to a close, and Team Nigeria, comprising of 35 athletes, won 7 medals and also set world record along the way. Now, Team Nigeria's 35-man athletes contingent concluded its campaign at the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games with a haul of 7 medals, finishing 40th in the overall medal table. The country's medal count includes 2 gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze medals. The team's performance was led by Onyinyechi Mark and Folúṣadé Oluwafemiayo, who won gold in powerlifting events and also set world records. Now, other notable performances came from 18-year-old Miriam Eniola, who won Nigeria's first medal at the tournament, and Esther Nwogo, among others. Sports enthusiasts resident in Abuja commended their achievements, but also raised concerns about support for the team since Nigeria debuted at the Paralympic Games in 1992 in Barcelona. The country has won medals at every Paralympics tournament, amassing presently a total of 87 medals, comprising 42 gold, 21 silver, and 24 bronze medals. I'm proud of the Paralympians, in all honesty.
I think I'm also proud of them. You look at what they've been able to do. They were only allocated 3 billion, am I correct?
Yeah, 3+.
All right. I think that they've done well for Nigeria. They've done well for the country, irrespective of the challenges that they faced compared to their counterparts who went for the Olympics. The Paralympics have always done as well.
I feel like they're not being celebrated as much victory,
of course,
in comparison to what they have also done for the country.
Interesting. All right, that's our show for today. Join us next week as we bring you stories happening in politics, entertainment, and of course lifestyle. My name is Ademola Lawrence.
I am Jane Frances Mweze. Thank you for being on the show with us today.